Shalom, shalom, peace be with you, peace be upon you, abundant blessings from the Most High, Maya Allah, or God and His begotten Son, Yeshua Mashiach, or Jesus the Messiah, Jesus the Christ. We are the ministry of the real truth, who strive to bring you the real truth, the whole truth, and nothing but that truth, in regard to the real biblical Old Testament scriptures, in or from the original ancient, very old Ktav Ashurit, in the original sacred scribal tongue or language, spoken by God, Lishana Saprea Artika, to Adam and Eve in the garden, or the Garden of Eden, and also the language that the men at the Tower of Babel spoke, that one language they all understood before they were given languages and then scattered across that geographical region from Sumer or Shinar and to other geographical locations, etc. These are the originals that were hand copied by scribes, monks in Urhai or Edessa, now modern Turkey, around 800 B.C.E. It's verified by Burt Alexander, a native-born Aramaic speaking translator from Mesopotamia, Syria, and also Andrew Gabriel Roth, a Messianic Jew, who has a website at thearamacscriptures.com. The first, Burt Alexander, deals with the old, long-dead language. It's not used anymore. It's gone the way of the dinosaur, as has the old Latin, the old Germanic, the old German, the old Greek, the old Latin, etc. But he found a way to revive that so they could translate this biblical format that is given by a high priest of the original Church of the East into the nearest English equivalent. Why we stress very old in our videos quite often is because it differentiates it from today's modern derivatives or vernaculars like the modern Aramaic, the modern Syriac, Israeli Hebrew, modern Greek, Latinized form of Greek, and so forth. This, as well as the original ancient, very old Galilean Aramaic New Testament manuscripts of Yeshua Mashiach, Jesus the Christ, Jesus the Messiah, that's the language that he spoke, and also the disciples who were Galileans, from Thomas to Barnabas, dated as given by the blessed hands of St. Thomas to the original Church of the East. He founded around about the 1st century AD, possibly fully established in the 2nd AD. These manuscripts were hidden from Emperor Constantine, from the Roman Imperial Church, therefore preserved by the Church of the East for over 2,000 years. Translated into the nearest English equivalent by a native-born Aramaic speaking translator from Mesopotamia, Syria, Burt Alexander, who's had over 20 years experience in translating those particular scriptures. These are the superior to all the other manuscripts, translations, interpolations, etc., as it had never been tampered with, altered in any way. They had no need to, because these high priests of that particular church, even though the original language wasn't spoken anymore, there were old people around, but they couldn't speak English, so they couldn't translate it into English for anyone, because they didn't know that language. And eventually They were very few. They were very rare because of enlisting in the World War, etc., etc. So these priests, these high priests of the Apostolic Church of the East, read it through their liturgy using a modern vernacular, possibly Syriac, and so forth. This is verified by Victor E. Alexander, Andrew Gabriel Roth, and also patriarchates, bishops, etc. of that original restored Church of the East. So these are the superior to all the other manuscripts because they haven't been tampered with and were translated until a later date where they may have been translated into Koine Greek, very old ancient Koine Greek, not the classical Attica, and so forth. And then a Bible format was given to Victor Alexander, who found a way to translate those original manuscripts into the nearest English equivalent. And this is what we bring to you throughout our videos. This video is verification that it has been translated from the following. Here is the information from Victor N. Alexander's former website that was up, va.com, but then it was down for some reason, and we found a way to revive it, resurrect it, and bring it to you in video format on our YouTube channel, The Ministry of the Real Truth. It reads, Creation or Genesis. Brita, or creation, is the real name of the book of Genesis. The word comes to us from the scribal language of the Jewish people. This is the name of the first book of the scriptures in the ancient Hebrew Aramaic language. And from Victor N. Alexander, the translator, Aramaic speaking translator from Bet Nahrein or Mesopotamia in Syria, the following. His translation of the Old Testament utilized the cuneiform manuscripts discovered by archaeologists in Mesopotamia in the late 19th century AD. The Ashurit king Ashurbanipal, during his 7th century BC reign out of Nineveh, sent out emissaries to the southern region, the land of Shinar or Sumer. That's where all men were gathered unto one place, right? And they built that Tower of Babel, according to the Genesis account. And Chaldee, Babylonia. It was Chaldee in Syria. That's where Abraham was born. In search of the ancient epics such as the Epic of Creation, which included the story of Adam and Eve, the Epic of Gilgamesh, which included also the story of Noah and the flood. He had them translated into the modern Ashurit language. It's the language of the Ashurit people. That's where when Jonah went to Nineveh, that's who they were. And they spoke their particular language. They were basically Assyrians. He had them translated into the modern Ashurit language of his day. However, the originals were 3,000 years older, but also in cuneiform. Okay? Here's the supposedly originals here. Epic of Creation, tablet 1500 BC, Ashurbanipal Library, British Museum, London. Ashurbanipal had them translated all these mythical stories, all these tablets, etc., that they gathered, whether they were the originals or copies. He had them all translated in the modern Ashurit language of his day, because he was what you would say in his day, a library fanatic, a bookworm or a tablet worm. However, the originals were 3,000 years older, but also in cuneiform. Interestingly, the stories have been preserved essentially the same. Ironically, by the time of Jesus Christ, the scriptures recorded during the Babylon captivity 5 centuries before had become so narrowly interpreted that the scribes and Pharisees failed to recognize Yeshua Mashiach or Jesus as the Messiah who was standing right in front of them. And they just couldn't see it, right? He was telling them, you're looking for me in the scriptures. It speaks all about me, okay, from the beginning to that stage where he was in front of those Pharisees and Sadducees. And he says, I'm right in front of you, and telling you, you know, I'm the Son of God, and you're not believing me. Yeah. They failed to recognize Yeshua Mashiach or Jesus as the Messiah, prophesied by all those millennial religious records. Today, both Judaism and the Catholic Church have realized the contribution of the cuneiform tablets of the Ashurit to the understanding of the roots of the Bible. The archaeologist Sir Henry Austin Layard and his assistant, his friend, Hormuzd Ratsam, discovered the Ashurbanipal library intact in Nineveh and created the 50,000 tablets to the British Museum in London. They are the pride of the British Museum, together with the oldest ancient Aramaic Old Testament, which dates back to the 4th century AD. So this library he created, and he put all these tablets, whether they were the originals or copies, that the people he sent out as emissaries gathered up from different parts of Mesopotamia or wherever, and brought it to him. Him being a bookworm, as we mentioned, or a tablet worm, with this massive library. Eventually it was Nineveh was invaded, destroyed, and this library was under all this rubble, and found early 19th century by Henry Austin Layard and Hummus Rassam, and they gathered up all these tablets, shipped them off to the British Museum, and a guy called George Smith, apparently a brilliant translator, etc., he helped them to piece those shards together and translate it into the nearest English. So we can verily say that these are superior to all other manuscripts because they haven't been altered, they haven't been tampered with, altered. They are intact from the first days when they were received by the high priest of that apostolic church founded by Thomas, with the assistance of possibly Urhai, Bartholomew and Peter. So these are superior to all the others on that fact that they weren't translated, they weren't messed with, tampered with, altered, translated into other languages until a certain time when they possibly translated it to the Koine Greek, because the Koine Greek is akin to the ancient Aramaic. So if you translate it into the nearest English equivalent, it'd be pretty much the same or similar. Okay. Sometimes things differ in translation, right? Through translation, but pretty much they would be in the same. So that's a heads up for all those out there that this Ktav Alexander has translated from these cuneiform tablets, or cuneiform tablets, these 3,000-year-old cuneiform tablets of Mesopotamia. Him and his wife, according to his translation project notes, his statements, went around the world. They went to the Louvre in Paris, British Museum in England, etc., and looked at all of these artifacts. The winged bull. He did a documentary on Mesopotamian history, according to him, in Mesopotamian records, because he is in fact a native-born Mesopotamian, right from Syria, because he came to his attention that Christians that were saying, oh, those winged bulls are demons and all this sort of stuff, and gave this false history. He tried to present it to libraries, film archive people, etc., and they just rejected it. They said, no, we're not going to take you seriously, because they had their story, right? Their version of it. They were pushing their version of it, possibly. So he was quite disappointed with that, right? But here it is, and that's basically verification that this then is, or these, his translations in the nearest English equivalent are superior to all the others out there. This may hurt some people's ego, crush their ego, because they've got theirs, but this is the truth. Okay? We're not trying to pull the wool over your eyes. We're not saying this because we've got a big ego or got some hidden motive or objective. What we do is basically to reveal all of these actual Old Testament scriptures, and as well as the Galilean Aramaic New Testament scriptures, to all the world, that these are the real deal. Okay? Because they were intact from the day they were given by the hands of the blessed disciple Thomas, right, up until modern day. They just read from it in their liturgy to their people who spoke the same language and could understand it within their church or their mass every Sunday or whenever they held it. So what reason did they have to translate it, or translate it into another foreign language, or to mess with it, etc.? That would be silly, wouldn't it? Okay, so we hope that this has opened your eyes to the origins of the original Old Testament scriptures and also the original ancient New Testament scriptures. If it's excited you and you want to know more, subscribe to our channel, give us a like, and then add your comments below in the comment section, and you go share this truth with your family, friends and others, so they will also know, hey, we can read the real scriptures translated into the nearest English equivalent by a native born Aramaic speaking translator, and the Minister of the Real Truth at the Ministry of the Real Truth YouTube channel online. Wow, we finally get to know the real truth. No more of these churches, etc., lying to us and so forth. Here is the real deal. So don't forget to subscribe to us, give us a like, add your comments below, and then share with all your family, friends and others so they may know the real truth, the whole truth, and nothing but that truth, in accordance to these original, ancient, very old manuscripts and scriptures translated into the nearest English equivalent.